Every single one of us had that one teacher that we all hated, just despised from the core of our being, whether it was because of the way that they taught us, or because of how the teacher looked down on all the students, or even because of the punishments that they gave out. It didn't matter what grade you were in, every single one of us had that one teacher that we all hated. You could try to escape them. When you hear the teacher walking down the hall, you just wish you could just hide and hope that they don't notice you. At least that is what you would do if the teacher was human. But what happens when the big, bad, scary teacher that all the students are afraid of was not even human? What if she was a ghost that haunted the empty corridors, still tormenting the students within the school? How would you escape her? Especially when you don't even know where she would appear next. This is the story of Madame Koi Koi of Nigeria. So sit down, grab a snack, and let me tell you a haunting tale of a vengeful teacher's ghost that still haunts the hallways of schools to this day. Imagine this. You happen to be a new teacher at a school in Nigeria. You have been staying later and later as the days go by, just trying to get all your work done. There were honestly too many papers to grade, and you refuse to take any of it home with you. So you stay at the school late into the evening, even after the sun began to set. You lose track of time, and by the time you were done, it was already late evening. It was dark outside, the moon shining, and there was not that many clouds in the sky. So you pack up for the day and we're about to head home. You walk down the hallway. There was no one around, and the lights have been shut off long ago. It seemed like it was only you in the building. That was until you realize there seems to be an echo of your footsteps. No, not an echo. It was a second pair of footsteps that was following you. You pause for a moment, just confused. There was supposed to be no one else in the building. The students should be asleep in their dorms, so who was the other person walking in the building? You tried to be cautious. You stopped walking to listen once more. Maybe it was just your ears playing tricks on you. You wait for 1 second, and then another, and that's when you hear it this time. Not footsteps. This time it felt like a guttural wail, a painful, gut-wrenching wail so haunting that it sends chills down your spine. You did not have the courage to investigate this yourself, so you run out, dashing from that location and winding down the corridors that lead you to the exit. And the second you step out of your school, you head straight for the police station. I mean, just because you were terrified of the sound yourself, that does not mean that you were not compassionate enough to see if there was someone else that might have gotten hurt. What if it had been a student? So you head into the police station just panting, almost hyperventilating, just taking big gulps of air, trying to catch your breath as you run into the police station. And you tell them exactly what happened. Slowly, as you were telling the tale of what you encountered, one by one, each officer comes to sit around you. And once you finish, the police look at you. A second goes by, no one speaks. And then another second, and then another. And all the police officers that were sitting around you, they just burst into laughter and you are confused. You just told them exactly what happened, what you encountered. There could be someone that was seriously hurt, but they are not taking you seriously at all. Once the police officers finally catch their breath, they dismiss you. They just say, yeah, that building, that school, yeah, that's haunted. You probably just heard Madame Koi Koi. Just don't stay too late into the night and forget about it. That explanation, though, it only frustrated you. Because what do you mean forget about it? How does one forget the guttural screams you had just heard? Even after you go home and double check that you have locked all your doors, you still think of the screams and you remember the name that the officers gave you and you decide to Google, who is this Madame Koi Koi? And you come across articles upon articles about this one teacher that had long since passed away. And you go down a rabbit hole. From the pictures and the articles, Madame Koi Koi was this really beautiful woman with delicate features that made her look almost like an angel. She was said to be gorgeous and extremely stylish. She taught at the very same secondary school that you were currently teaching in, and apparently, she was known for her beauty and these red heels that she always wore. And those red heels would make these sounds, koi koi, which is where she got her nickname from. Except behind those delicate angelic features, she had a very sadistic nature. She was said to give out brutal punishments to the students, beating them up for one reason or another, and sometimes she did not even need a reason at all. And it all culminated one day when the students that she chose to be her victim happened to be the daughter of a higher up official. Madame Koi Koi was fired the very next day. She was devastated, of course, just sobbing, an utter wreck. And on her drive back home, she met with an accident, one that took her life. And before she died, the responders stated that she looked extremely angry and that she said she was going to exact her revenge. You search for other blogs to see if anyone else had your experience, and you come across a couple of them. Stories of students that lived in the dorms in the school, and all of them said that from that day that Madame Koi Koi died, they could hear sounds of her heels, as if she was still walking down the corridor, still searching for another victim to punish, even in death. That was the story of Madame Koi Koi, or at least one version of it. Another version also states that she was a terrible teacher who wickedly punished all her students any chance that she got. Basically, she was a sadist that used the power dynamics of being a teacher to hurt her students. But in this version of the story, it stated that the students banded up together to complain to the school administrators. But it didn't seem to matter how many times they complained, the administrators did nothing. And as their punishments just grew and grew to the point that none of them could take it anymore, the students all came together. They lured Madame Koi Koi to a secluded part of the school and cornered her. And with the numbers on their side, they gag her so that no one could hear her, and they beat her until their frustrations boiled over. Except when they were finally done, they realized that she's dead. And the students panic. How are they going to explain this now? So, they try to devise a plan. They throw the body of Madame Koi Koi over the school's back fence, and they hope that anyone that saw her body would think that she was robbed on her way home. Time goes on, and news of the dead teacher dies down. But then slowly, one by one, students that were involved in the beating of Madame Koi Koi, they seemed to disappear for a few days. And when they were finally discovered again, the officers would only find the students' dead bodies, which seemed to have been beaten the same way that the students beat Madame Koi Koi. One by one, all of the students begin to vanish and then are discovered with similar wounds, until the last student. During the beating that killed Madame Koi Koi, this student hit her with a shoe, her own red heels. And this student was the last one standing, as if even in death, the teacher was trying to send a message. In his desperate attempt to save himself, he tries to tell everyone around him what he and his friends had done to Madame Koi Koi, but no one believes him. Until one night, he was in his dorm, it was silent, as quiet as can be, and he heard the sound of the heels. And the next morning, people find his body the same way they found the other students, bloodied and bruised as if he had been beaten to death. To this day, it is said that she still haunts schools, tormenting students. They say that if you hear singing coming from a deserted part of the school or red shoes that are laying around, that is Madame Koi Koi around you. That being said, this legend is mostly spread in schools as a way to keep students in line, especially in boarding schools, kind of as a way to warn them from misbehaving and all the supernatural ways that they could be punished. And as such, this tale has been passed down from one generation of students to another, to the point that it is now adapted into a horror series on Netflix, The Origins, Madame Koi Koi. Either way, the legend itself is a cautionary tale about being mean and unjust and the consequences that you can reap from acting in such a manner. But could the legend be real? There is no real story that could be attributed to Madame Koi Koi. and so it was just let go as another Nigerian urban legend. But there have been several stories of students in Nigerian boarding schools that have claimed to hear sounds of heels walking down the hall, lights flickering every time the heel sound came about, or even humming when there should have been none. Either way, when you're going into school this semester, just make sure you're running the opposite way when you hear the clicks of those heels. That's all for today. Until next time, sweet dreams. Good night.